Oh God. Yeah. Well, for the first time since week two, uh, looks like we're gonna have a loss here. I mean, there's over 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, but Seahawks are winning at 24-10, and Eagles just turned over on downs on fourth down. Wentz looked pretty erratic on that possession right there too. After getting a first down, just I know the pressure has been there on him, and to put it bluntly, that they just missed too many plays tonight. I mean, I know that going into this week, the Eagles won 9 games in a row, and everyone's feeling great about things. And I know Seattle lost the last 2 home games. Look, that's a desperate team. And the one thing I will say about Seattle, and I've watched them for a number of years now, the one thing I know about that team is to beat them, particularly there, you have to play a perfect game. And when there's opportunities to be had, you got to make those you have got to capitalize on those opportunities. That's what Atlanta did. That's what Washington did to win those games in Seattle, those weeks ago. I mean, Seattle is a playoff-tested veteran team. It's a team that, even though they have injuries, they've been together for a number of years, and they know how to win. And this is a desperate team coming into this game. They needed this game. So I know that all the naysayers and all here, I can hear it now. Oh, we told you, the Eagles aren't that good. Well, I mean, look, I will counter that by saying this week, no, the Eagles weren't as good. They did not take advantage of the opportunities that were there. Carson Wentz missed a wide open Nelson Aguilar in the first half, which could have been a touchdown. Doug Peterson, worst game of the year. Worst game of the year. As far as all together. And I know it's his second year as a head coach. Carson Wentz is a second-year quarterback. I think we all have to kind of be reminded that before we all fly off the handle this week. And there's still a lot of good that they can do. I mean, the season's not over tonight in Seattle. As I see them get a sack on Russell Wilson. Boy, they finally bring him down. The season's not over tonight, regardless of what happens with this game, be it a loss. Season's not over. I mean, they're 10-2, okay? And I know they lost to a good team on the road. I think we all have to remember that, on the road. It wasn't here. And hopefully, if we do see Seattle again this year, it will be here at Lincoln Financial Field. And hopefully the next time we see them, if we see them this season in the playoffs, if there's opportunities there to be made, you make those opportunities. You capitalize on those opportunities, because that's the only way you're going to beat that team. When they give you an opportunity to make a play, you better damn well make a play. And when you're going in for a touchdown, you cannot fumble the ball the way Wentz fumbled the ball. And it happens. It happens to the best of them. Turnovers happen. But at that point, when you're down, what was it? It was still 10-3, I believe. Going in for the tying score, you can't fumble the ball there. And I know Wentz is, look, he's an athlete. He's gonna go for it, trying to make that touchdown, and made that extra effort to try to get in, and he fumbled the ball because of it. You cannot do that in that situation in this stadium in Seattle. You can't do that. When there's an opportunity to make a play, you cannot lose that opportunity. And as I said earlier, Doug Peterson, worst coaching job this season. The way the first half ended just left a bad taste in my mouth. And it was only 10-3. I mean, it wasn't like we were getting blown out at that point. It was a 10-3 ball game. Eagles had the ball at midfield. And the play call on third down, when you're playing, as I see Wentz, boy, I'll say another thing, man. This has been a bad game for the offensive line. Wentz has been pressured the whole game. I know Lane Johnson did a pretty good job against Bennett, but the pressure up the middle, yeah. And I know not all defenses are like Seattle's front, so let's not start getting all panicky here. Although next week's going to be tough too against the Rams. There's 2:54, 2:53 and counting to go. It's still 24-10 Seattle, and the Eagles are just, it's over. I'm calling the game right now. So when you're at midfield and you have an opportunity in points territory to get into points territory, to get in field goal range, if anything else, to end the half on a high, get some points, get a field goal, make it a 10-6 game, maybe even get lucky and score a touchdown and tie it up before the half. The third down play call was bad. It was like a sweep to the outside. You're going up against a very athletic linebacking core in Seattle. Slant route, something other than that on third down. And if you're going to run that play on third down, that means you're going to go for it on fourth down. They did not. They let all this time tick away so Seattle wouldn't have any time. And then instead of going for it on fourth down and trying to keep that drive alive, you still had some timeouts, still had a chance to get some points on that drive and end the half at least with another field goal and make it a 10-6 game. You put the ball to them. And I said this before the game. I said to beat Seattle, you have to keep the in that building particularly, you have got to keep your foot on the pedal. You can't let it up. You got to be aggressive, and you can't make mistakes. You got to play with this team for 4 quarters. And they threw up the white flag. They said, oh no, they did it twice now. The first time when they didn't go for it on fourth down, I kind of agreed with it. It was too early in the game. I just said about the stepping on the pedal. But at that point, if you don't get it on fourth down, Seattle has great field position, and there's still plenty of ball game to get, plenty of time to go for them to get points. All right, you rely on your defense. Your defense has played well. Okay, let's not, make that mistake early. But at the second opportunity they had, late in the first half, when they're at midfield, you got to go for it. You got to go for it because there's not a lot of time left. And in a way, it's like, okay, Peterson's thought process was if we miss here and we give Seattle the ball, at the time I think it was still a 10-3 ball game. You give Seattle the ball, they make a couple plays, they get a field goal, and now they're up 13-3. But again, it's time and place. You got to go for it. If that's a playoff game and you don't make it, and you make the same mistake, it's just going to beat you. Oh, great. Byron Maxwell, of all people, has an interception. I mean, that was a jump ball in the end zone, but look, I said this before the game, and I'm going to stick to it. To beat this team, you got to play them for 4 quarters. You got to take whatever opportunity they give you and cash in. And the Eagles simply didn't do that. I mean, you look at this game, you look at the final of this game, and it was missed opportunities for the Eagles. And Seattle, when they had opportunities, they cashed in. They made plays. That's a team that, they have done a lot of winning in recent years. They know how to win. Even with the injuries, they're not going to lay down for anybody. I mean, you had people saying, oh, the Eagles are going to win this game 41-3, 41-10. No. Seattle's a damn good team with a damn good quarterback and just, a defense that knows how to win and impose their will on other people. Yeah, they lost the last 2 home games. That just makes them more hungry to win these games at home the rest of the season. This is a completely different animal. And to beat that team, you got to play with them. You cannot take the foot off the pedal like Doug Peterson and that offense did to end the first half. Second point, that was a forward pass by Russell Wilson to, who was it, Brown, the running back? The Eagles had a challenge, and you don't challenge that play. Doug, hello, you got to challenge that play. That was a third down turned into first down on a play that was a forward pass. I know it looked like a lateral, but it was a forward pass. Even if you think it's close, you got to challenge it. Why are you not challenging it and giving them the ball, and a few plays later they get a touchdown? Challenge the play. Another missed opportunity. It's a forward pass. How many coaches do you see that challenge that play? Pete Carroll would have challenged that play. Challenge the play, Doug. What are you doing? Wake up. It's like the guy was in Seattle. He didn't get enough coffee before the game. And again, it's hard to criticize when you're 10-1, about to be 10-2, and everything is going as well as it does. But these are big games. You know, these are big games. This is a playoff caliber team that we're playing tonight. And Doug Peterson was sleepwalking through the game. Sleepwalking through the game. As I see it. You got to challenge that play. It's too big a play and too big a point of the game. The momentum was with the Eagles. They score a touchdown. It's a one-score game. Seattle does this forward lateral pass, right? If that even makes sense, forward pass. It was close, but it was a forward pass. All the angles that you saw, all the replays that you saw, Collinsworth and Al Michaels are going, well, you gotta challenge that, don't you? You gotta challenge that. No, you don't challenge. How do you not challenge that play? How? At that point in the game, you're not challenging it? Biggest concern going forward with this team is the inexperience factor. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you the sky's falling and the season's over. Oh, we lost the game in Seattle where most teams lose. You know, how the hell did the Redskins win there? Okay, but anyhow, all right, it happens. But why did it happen? And there's a reason. Not taking advantage of opportunities. And when there was a chance to try to turn the game around, when the momentum was with you, and Seattle gets a third down because they have a forward pass, and you don't challenge it, and you say, well, that's okay. We'll just keep them with the ball. Maybe we'll get a turnover. No, you haven't gotten a turnover the whole damn game. That was an opportunity at a turnover right there by challenging the play, getting it correct. The officials hopefully get that one correct. And Seattle doesn't get the third down conversion. They punt the ball. The Eagles get the ball back, and who knows what could have happened. Now, look, the Eagles still would have been down a touchdown. They still would have had to make plays. You know, who knows? Who knows? But in that point in the game, at a critical point in the game, two things happened. Okay? Two critical parts of this game. Eagles going in for the tying touchdown. Wentz fumbles it. Goes out of bounds for a touchback. Key point number 2. Seattle has the ball. It's a 7-point game. Wilson has a forward, looks like a lateral, but it's a forward pass. Peterson doesn't challenge it. Seattle retains possession, converts the third down. And then some plays later, they get a touchdown to make it a 2-score game. And at that point, okay, I mean, it's the fourth. Who knows what could happen? But for all intents and purposes, the game's over. The way things have been going in this game, okay. And I know it's hard to get overly frustrated when a team is 10-2, but this is why we have passion for this team, because there's still room for improvement. This is why I said it's a week-to-week deal. You can't get too high when things are going too well, and you can't get too down when things aren't going too well, but it's frustration. It's frustration because this is going to be a playoff team this year, and these are the type of games that you're going to be in. And you cannot make these type of mistakes in the playoffs. Maybe you get away from it, today. I mean, you go from 10-1 to 10-2. You still got 4 games to go in the regular season to still try to get a home field advantage, to still at least, if anything else, try to get a first-round bye. The Vikings can't seem to lose anymore, so we'll see what happens there. I mean, Case Keenum, who knew? But anyhow, I mean, look, I mean, it regardless, when you're in the playoffs and you're in these type of games, in these type of situations, you cannot make these mistakes. And again, I don't want people to misconstrue what I'm trying to say here. I'm not EDP ranting it and saying the season's over, as I'm sure he's going to have a video after this game say we're done, it's over, might as well not even watch anymore. No, because for all we know, the Eagles could win next week at the Rams and, lock up the NFC East division title, or Dallas loses their game next week. I don't remember who they're playing. What's it, the Giants or something like that? I don't even know who they're playing next week, to be honest. But if Dallas loses or we win, we win the division next week. Okay, so it's the inevitable is prolonged for another week. I mean, this isn't going to be the collapse of all collapses and we're going to lose out the rest of the season here. I'm not trying to say that, and I'm not trying to, put a fork in the season. Okay? But what I'm saying as a fan and as someone who watches every game and has passion for this team, and going forward into the playoffs when you're going to be playing teams like Minnesota, the Rams, Saints, possibly the Seahawks, possibly the Falcons, whoever, Panthers, you cannot have a game like this. You cannot make these type of mistakes. And we have to remember this is still a young team with a second-year coach and a second-year quarterback, and there are going to be mistakes. They haven't been in these games. Carson Wentz going forward, when they get into the playoffs, this is his first playoffs. Now, I know he played them in college, won championships at North Dakota State. He has experience that way, but not in the NFL. So we're going to have to, wait and see. But I think a game like this, it throws water on the face, right? It's like everything was going well, and now you have a game like this where they did make some plays. They showed some fight. I mean, they were down, 17-3. Wentz makes an all-time throw on 3rd and long, 45 yards to Aguilar, and then on 3rd and 14, he hits Aguilar for a touchdown. That was big, because in that point in the game, they're still in it. But then here comes the Seahawks, and again, the forward pass that Peterson does not challenge turns into a first down and a big play. And you know what? Peterson cannot be gun-shy. When this thing goes to the playoffs, or even next week, if there's an opportunity to throw the challenge flag, you better damn well throw the challenge flag, Doug. I mean, you throw it for these weird things like a spot call or something like that, but that was a huge play. 3rd down forward pass, you're not throwing that flag? It's the type of things we used to get upset with Andy Reid about years ago. Why aren't you challenging it, Andy? What are you doing? What's the use of having the flag in your pockets? You're not going to use it. It's there to be used. Again, missed opportunities tonight. So I think the game just went final. Eagles lose 24-10. Frustrating because there was some real opportunities in this game to get a W, or at least if anything else, who knows? You fight, you tie it, you go to overtime, whatever. But there were opportunities had in this game that they just couldn't take it. And that's the frustrating thing about a game like this. I mean, 24-10 is the final. This game was close at one point, and they had a shot, and they just couldn't. They just couldn't. So now they're tied with the Vikings at 10-2 because the Vikings won again today in Atlanta. Hopefully they lose at some point. And Minnesota is where the Super Bowl is. Just something to think about there, huh? So, anyhow, it's not a death sentence, this game. We're still looking good. 10-2, still going to win the division. But the hope going forward here is they got to learn from this game. And hopefully, this is the low point. This was the wake-up call. This was the slap in the face. Maybe that this team needed. I don't know. You can kind of play devil's advocate and say, well, it's good they got this one out of the way before the playoffs. I mean, I know people were saying 15-1 or whatever. I mean, look, there is such a thing as a wake-up call, and maybe this team got that wake-up call tonight. And the mistakes that were made in this game, the opportunities that were not taken, maybe those are the opportunities they take, next week against the Rams or going into the playoffs. My thing is I still want this team to have home field advantage. And I know the NFC playoffs is going to be a dogfight this year. I mean, there are some good teams in the NFC. The Saints, the Rams, the Vikings with that defense. The Eagles are one of them. Depending on how things go, Seattle, with all the playoff success that they've had over the years, if they get in, they could be that dangerous team, right? Even though they won't be in their building. More than likely, unless they somehow win that division, they're not going to be in Seattle, for the playoffs. And they have had struggles in the playoffs when they're not at home. So, take that for what it's worth. But Seattle possibly, Atlanta, Carolina, whoever. There are going to be some tough teams. It's not going to be easy to come out of the NFC this year. AFC, I think it's going to be New England or Pittsburgh. Okay, one or the other. Probably New England again, right? But again, and there are measuring stick games, and this was one of them, and they failed this one. This was an F. This was a test. This was an F. I do think that there were lessons learned in this game, and I hope to God that they correct the mistakes that they made in this one. I mean, there are going to be games like this in the playoffs where not everything's going right, and you got to fight through it. And I think they did show some fight at times in this game, and there were times that... And look, the defense, hey guys, I mean, they're not left off the hook either. They couldn't get off the field on third down. Not only on that one pitch play or forward pass, basically, but there were other opportunities for this team to get off the field. They couldn't. I mean, Doug Baldwin, again, makes plays against this team. Russell Wilson, who's now 3-0 lifetime against the Eagles, makes plays. That's what Russell Wilson does. That's what this team does. So I take heart in knowing that the sky's not fall. It's not the end of the world here. Our season isn't over. I know there are going to be plenty of people that are going to be, ha, I told you, ha. We'll see. I think next week against the Rams is a huge test and a huge game because they got to rebound. They dealt with a little adversity tonight. It was not a good game, as I said, by the coach. The quarterback didn't have his best game. Bad fumble there on the goal line going into the end zone. Just a bad fumble. And that's what it is. And sometimes teams are going to get breaks like that. The Eagles got breaks like that, right? So Seattle got a big break there. I mean, the Eagles are going in for the tying score, and Wentz fumbles the ball. That was a break for Seattle. Okay? Again, this was a game that meant a whole lot more to Seattle than the Eagles record-wise. Seattle needed this game. And I will kind of think of it that way, too. Yes, I would have loved to see the Eagles win and continue this winning streak, but I know how dangerous that Seahawks team is. And when their backs are against the wall, they seem to play their best football, particularly in that stadium. So you take that, for what it is, too. That was a desperate team. Now, I will say, that being said, you're going to play desperate teams in the playoffs because it's one and done. So, again, let's hope that this was the clunker. And going into the playoffs, hopefully here at Lincoln Financial Field moving forward, they don't have a clunker like that. Because if they do, they're out. Can't make mistakes like they did tonight and hope to win in the playoffs. You just can't. So I think tonight they showed some of their inexperience. The offensive line had some problems. Carson Wentz, he missed some throws and he fumbled the ball. Wasn't one of his better games. He made some incredible throws and plays on those 2 third down plays, to get the team within 7. But he didn't have his best game. Zach Ertz goes down with a possible concussion. We'll have to keep an eye on that. He's in the concussion protocol. I would imagine he won't be playing next week if he's not cleared. But you never know. I guess we'll know later in the week. But that's going to be a big loss if he's out for any period of time. One of Wentz's favorite targets. I know it didn't hurt them in the Denver game, but, going forward, that's a big loss if he's out for any extended period of time. So listen, we are 2-1. 2-1. Yeah, we're 10-2. Not the end of the world. I'm not going to be one of those people that say, see, they lost to a good team, now their season's over. For me, this game, the game was lost on missed opportunities and just bad coaching. Quarterback did not have one of his best games. He just didn't. This was probably Wentz's worst game of the year. Okay? And yes, Seattle, even with the injuries, they still have a pretty damn good defense. So you take it for what it is. And we got to hope that the Eagles can correct the ship. They're staying on the West Coast this week. Hopefully they rebound, beat the Rams. It's going to be a good game, tough game. Rams are a good team. They won today, against the Cardinals. But it's another test, and we'll see if this team is up for it next week. I personally believe they will be. I believe they will rebound and win that game and win the division if Dallas, regardless of what they do earlier in the day. I do see this as an opportunity lost because there were opportunities and plays to be made that they left on the field. And I've said this, and I hate to keep saying this, but against Seattle, you cannot leave those plays on the field. You just can't. And you can't do that against some other teams too, but particularly Seattle, particularly in that building. You can't. So all in all, it's a tough one. It's 24-10. Eagles go down for the first time since week 2. They are still undefeated at home, for what it's worth, but they go down to Seattle. Russell Wilson gets them again. So what can you say? It's a tough one. I hope that they can rebound next week against the Rams. Hopefully next week we're back in the win column talking about wins. But things need to be corrected, and I think. A game like this still shows that this team still has a few things to correct. Screws to tighten. And hopefully that they do tighten those screws and, win at the Coliseum next week and win the division title. At least get that out of the way. And then moving forward against the Giants and then the Raiders and the finish off the season against Dallas, those 2 games at home, to finish off the season. And those games are probably going to mean something too. Because the division might be wrapped up, but home field might not be wrapped up, particularly the way the Vikings and the Saints. I mean, it's getting to be a bit bunched up for home field advantage. And again, I know those teams are happy with this score, so it's added pressure. But you know what? This team did win 9 straight games, so they're going to have to find that winning formula again next week against the Rams, get the division title. And then, continue to try to lock up home field, which I do think is going to be very important for this team to do, as well as they play at home. All right, Eagles Nation. Hey, it's a tough one tonight. What can I say? Mistakes were made. Opportunities were not taken when they were there. Doug Peterson, not a good game. Carson Wentz, not a good game. A tough one. But the good teams rebound, right? They do. So we'll hope for a rebound win against the Rams next Sunday. 4:30 Eastern time start, so, another kind of late game, so we'll see how that one goes. It's disappointing. Maybe I went a little too overboard here, but, when I see a game like this and missed opportunities, it's frustrating. Even when you start 10-1, it's still frustrating. Losing is always frustrating. And, this team is still doing a lot of great things this season, but now they got to tighten the screws a little more and learn from the mistakes made tonight. And let's not continue these mistakes. Certainly not against the Rams. Good team. And then going forward. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. As always, we have to talk about loss for the first time in months. But it is what it is. It's that time of year. Teams are playing tough, so you got to play tough with them. All right, everyone. Let's go Birds as always. And I'll see you guys around the channel. Hopefully we're talking about a win a week from tonight against the Rams. All right, everyone. Take care.